everybody, welcome to my next video. Now, unlike last video where I talked about Tony's cell phone and blah blah blah, I want to talk about something a lot more serious. I know that some people, watching might have an issue with what I'm going to talk about, so, if you get hypersensitive about people talking about you being a moocher or whatever, get over yourself and don't whine at me because, I'm talking about something I found on Yahoo. And yeah, this is one of those I found it on Yahoo kind of things. I saw this last month, and I had Tony print out the hard copy for me because, well, I couldn't get the printer to work. I was on a non-printing computer at the library. So I just emailed it to him and had him print it for me, bring it home. But this article that I found talks about, money matters and money mistakes. I'm going to read this more or less verbatim, so I'm not plagiarizing it in any way, but this is just something interesting that I found I wanted to share with everybody. And I think, some of you may even agree with me on this, because I have strong feelings on it. After I read the article, and I will say this now, I will talk about, my opinion on this and everything, okay? So here's what the article says, more or less verbatim, of course. Borrowing money is never simple, but when you borrow from friends or family members, it also has the potential to destroy relationships. Tara, a working mom in the Midwest in her early 30s, struggled with whether or not to help her parents buy a new car while she and her husband were trying to pay off their own debts. She ended up deciding not to help. Quote, "I don't want to think about dealing with that while I'm trying to stay focused on getting out of debt," says Tara, who asked that only her first name be used. She says her decision created family tension. As more families come under financial pressure, Tara's dilemma, to help or not to help, has become increasingly common. According to Fidelity, 10% of Gen Xers provide financial support to their parents or in-laws, and the average amount is about $3,500 a year. First, decide if you can afford to give help. An Ameriprise financial survey found that many baby boomers didn't realize how much the help they were providing cut into their own retirement savings. About 30% of baby boomers said the money they gave their adult children negatively affected their own retirement savings, but most were unaware of the impact. Consider saying no firmly. Declining a request to help, while painful, is sometimes the best decision a person can make, especially since many loans never get paid back. The top priority needs to be staying solvent oneself, said Ted Beck, president of the National Endowment for Financial Education. If a relative asks for money unexpectedly, you should stop, suggests Gene Fleming and Leonard Schwartz, authors of Isn't It Their Turn to Pick Up the Check? Quote, "What you blurt out may not be the best answer," Schwartz says. Then be sympathetic but firm. Quote, "You want to be unequivocal. Don't say this is a bad time or they'll ask you again next week," Fleming adds. Look for non-monetary alternatives. Tina Kimball, a 30-something administrative assistant in Dayton, Ohio, loaned her parents her car when an accident left theirs unusable. If the situation worsened, she said, she would invite them to live with her family. Kimball says she wishes she could give them money, but with her own family finances under pressure, she's doing the most she can. Put all loans and gifts in writing. Relatives lending more than $1,000 should drop a simple document describing the terms of the loan, including the interest rate and schedule for repayment, recommends Jennifer Streaks, a financial services attorney in Washington, D.C. In addition to preventing misunderstandings, the paperwork can be important for legal reasons too. This year, amounts over $12,000 are subject to gift taxes, and unless a certain interest rate set by the Treasury Department is charged, currently 1.63% or higher, loans could also be considered gifts. Consider what might be expected in return. Donald Cox, professor of economics at Boston College, says that people who give or lend money to relatives are usually motivated by altruism, but sometimes something is expected in return. For example, if parents give money to their child for a down payment for a house or college tuition, they may expect assistance later. Quote, many adult children who are providing care for needy elderly parents say they are doing this out of a sense of reciprocity, he said. Learn from mistakes. Tales of family borrowing gone awry abound. And some of these examples from Alpha Consumer Readers. Andrew lent his sister $10,000 in 2005 to help her pay off her bills and get out of debt. He expected her to pay it back, but she only repaid a small portion of it. He writes, quote, I rarely talk to her, and when I do, I don't want to pester her about the money. She recently purchased a house, and she has a family with 3 stepkids and one of her own who is only a year old. He isn't sure what to do and worries about tension around holiday gatherings. The lesson, family loans often don't get paid back, which can badly strain relationships. When Jay's mother had a stroke at age 50, he struggled over whether or not to lend her money. He was just 26 with a job and could afford to give her money, but he decided not to. He writes, I know my mom. I know her history with money and jobs. I know what would happen if I enabled her behavior. But he did pay her rent until she recovered. She ended up relocating to a less expensive area and is making ends meet. The lesson, know your limits. Jay says that while his decision was difficult, he knows it was probably the best move. Throughout my experience with my mom, she kept saying, I'll pay you back, but I knew better. I know there are some people that I know, well, not personally, but I know well enough to where I know that if they were to ever come to me for money, I would not loan it to them. I mean, and I'm not saying that to be malicious. I'm not. It's just because I have a very strict policy about no loaning money. Even if I was to win the lottery tomorrow and I had the money the next day and I paid off all my debts and blah blah blah, I still wouldn't loan them the money. Not that I won the lottery. Don't get that idea. And don't come looking for me if you're the one I'm talking about here. Because I would tell you to get off your sorry butt and get a job. And I would use a little more festive language than that. But that's the way I feel, about it. I mean, it's like, if you're of sound mind and body, and you can work even if it's a part-time job, you should work. I mean, I know, granted, right now with the economy the way it is, people are having a hard time making ends meet and finding jobs and stuff. But I really think people need to be working and not laying around. I mean, yeah, I work from home and stuff, but I work, 40 hours a week. And I happen to enjoy my job a great deal. I mean, and I really can say that, honestly. I enjoy my job. Because my coworkers, the other managers, are great people. And yeah, I have a management job, for those of you that don't know. It's one of those things where I can't really talk about it because it'd be just too involved for me to explain. It's not like I work for the government or something. Wish I did, but really, I mean, my job, I really enjoy my job because, it's funny, and this goes into the money thing. I used to put more miles on my car than I could believe, and, for example, my car is due for an oil change. The hilarious thing is, for a change, instead of me making the mileage first over the date, it's the other way around. For once, the date will go around and I haven't even put the mileage on there. I have not driven my car much because I work from home. I mean, it's like all I drive my car to is like the post office to like check my P.O. box, or the grocery store to go out and take a walk, which I have started walking after work because I need to get out of the house and do some exercise. So like I worked tonight, for example, and I went to Kroger's and took a walk around Kroger's, and I needed to go in there anyway. I needed to pick up some stuff. But yeah, I walk, I go somewhere and take a walk inside, because it is cold in the wheel digger's rump outside right now. It's like 19 degrees or something. This is February, so, in northern Kentucky, so what do you expect, right? But anyway, I digress back to the whole money thing. Susan Lucci wrote a book. It's her character, Erica Kane, and she talks about Susan Lucci, that is, as Erica Kane. and I read the book and I thought it was very interesting. Susan Lucci talks about that she isn't a bank. Her opinion is that she is not a bank or a charitable institution, and she has a policy that she does not, since she is neither a bank nor a charitable institution, she does not loan money, and she tells people this. And I read it when it first came out and was published and everything, and I thought, you know, that's the truth. I have taken that policy. I don't loan people money. I mean, like, I will give Tony money, but yeah, hello, put that in perspective. Tony is my husband, okay? You know, I will give him money. I will not give my parents money, for example. I mean, like, you know, unless I had a reason to, like, you know, like, I give my parents money, you know, to, like, if, you know, I want mom to go to the store and pick something up for me, say. You know, that's one thing, you know, but, you know, and because, like, the store is only open when I'm working or something and I can't go. Or, you know, mom, you know, like, I'm paying mom back for a card or something that she got me, for example. But I have some relations, and I'm not going to say how I know these people. You know, I'm not going to say if they're friends or family. But I have these people that I know, who shall remain nameless, who have, well, long story short, financial problems, and who are, long story short, what I consider a pack of beggars. You know, they're always coming around trying to find somebody who they can borrow money off of, and, you know, it's like saying the sun rises in the east. Everybody's on to them that knows them, including me. I know for a fact they will not pay anybody back. I mean, I would not loan them money if my life depended on it. I mean, they could hold me at gunpoint and say, you know, help me out. And I'd look at them and say, go ahead and shoot me, because, you know what, I'll have you arrested for assault. You know, I want to say you held me at gunpoint because you wanted me to give you money and try to rob me. I get you for robbery, too. You know, but, you know, really. I mean, I don't, you know, I won't give them money. I mean, like I said, even if I won the lottery tomorrow, you know, and they found out about it the next day and I had the money the next day, they come to me with their hands out like this, like, you know, help me out. I mean, like, get your sorry self a job. Really. I mean, you got, you know, laying around not contributing. I mean, like, for example, and this is, you know, goes into the whole money thing, and I know I've talked about this before. There are two people that I am related to that I can understand why they don't work. I mean, they have a medical reason why they don't work. Like, for example, my dad doesn't work. Hello, that man had a 200-pound motor fall on both of his legs and break one of them. Okay, I could understand why he doesn't work, okay? The man can barely walk, okay? I am just thrilled to death I have the man in my life. I love my dad very, very much, and yes, I am a daddy's girl. I absolutely love my father very, very, very much. You know, I can see why he isn't working. I mean, he's got a reason not to work, okay? He is on disability, and he is crippled, okay? Although I think my dad would kick my butt if he heard me call him crippled. Well, he's physically challenged. You know, I mean, he has a physical challenge with walking, especially, as I mentioned earlier, it is colder than a well digger's rump outside right now. It's 19 degrees. I've mentioned that either in this video or the last video. But it's cold, and it's bothering his arthritis. I mean, I can understand why my dad's not working. You know, then, you know, I have a cousin that lives in Harlan, Kentucky. This poor fellow is, oh God, he is lucky to be alive, long story short. The guy had a 2-ton boulder fall on his back, like in the middle of his back. Like, say this is him, you know, head, but, you know, it, like, say you lay him this way, like, it landed, like, on his back, like, right in the middle. I mean, it happened in 1998. I can tell you that because I lived in North Carolina in 1997. I came home in 1998. We were going back down to Biltmore, Nashville, North Carolina, and they got extracted my cousin from the mine and flew him to UK in Lexington. Sorry, being dyslexic, Lexington. And, you know, we saw him. We stopped by to see him and his parents and his wife. Well, he couldn't feel anything from the waist down. I mean, like, I put my hand on his foot and said, "Can you feel my hand on your foot?" And he said, "What?" He was, you know, they had him stoned out of his mind on pain meds. He couldn't even, he's like, "You have your hand on my foot." He couldn't feel it. Oddly enough, and I've talked about him before, and this was in the newspaper in 1998 up here, in like the Cincinnati Post. The world's best neurosurgeon happened to be up here at the University of Cincinnati, or UC. She happened to be up here, and they flew her down to Lexington to operate on my cousin. He is lucky. He is a very lucky man that she just happened to be here. She opened him up to see the extent of the damage and see, you know, like what all needed to be done and what have you. Well, she sealed him back up and went and talked to his wife, this cousin's wife, and parents, and said, you know, he is a very lucky man that he's alive. I mean, he is. I mean, you know, if you think about Floyd Collins, and I've talked about him in my Mammoth Cave stuff, Floyd Collins, he died. They couldn't get him out, and he's missing his left leg from the knee down. But my cousin's, you know, got everything. She, you know, of course, opened him up. She helped him. You know, yeah, he's all there. He can feel every last thing, all the way down to his toes. And the amazing thing is that he can walk with the help of a cane. I mean, he, you know, he can't run. You know, if a bear was chasing him tomorrow, but you know, I mean, like, I could see him not working. He's got an excuse. And just as an aside for Richard, he might be interested in knowing this, speaking of money, here in Kentucky they were talking about doing drug tests for the welfare recipients. So I kind of had to bring this up because I've been meaning to do this video. So, you know, Richard, if you're watching, you know, I don't think the law's going to pass, but it would have been hysterical if it would have, because Pinhead would have got thrown off of, you know, welfare if it had passed. I hope it does. That's one law I hope passes. Just as an aside, as far as money goes. But yeah, really, I mean, it's like, you know, like I said, you know, back to that article I read earlier, you know, I have no intention of loaning people money. I mean, because especially with, like, you know, certain people I know, they will never repay anybody. I mean, you know, or, you know, anything. I mean, it's like, I, you know, hate to say it, and I'm not doing that to be malicious, but there are people I do know that are leeches and won't repay people. They borrow money. But anyway, I just want to stop here because I've talked long enough, and I hope you guys hang on for the next couple of rounds of videos, alright? So hang on.